about recording from your girlfriend's house.
All right, we're back live.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to have to splice it together again. This is very jarring for our listeners, probably. It's because it must be the hurricanes. This internet connection has been going in and out.
It's so weird
I mean,
that mine doesn't go out. I don't know. It's just so odd. This is part of the problem when you start thinking about cutting the cord. Because, one of these issues would be that if you break up the bundle that you're in, your internet's going to go up. And I can't believe they would have the nerve to charge you more.
well, I have to come up with a new system. So anyway, you were saying you're in a male to male relationship.
Yeah. I'm just saying I don't think this has ever really been an issue for me. I've never really been in the position to try. I don't want to say like to try to impress somebody, but like I understand that I think it's probably more. You don't want to look like a jerk in front of your girlfriend of less than 2 years. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, so you didn't have a problem looking like a jerk when that came up when you guys were at the grocery store or some other place?
I don't think it's ever really come up. I don't think this has ever happened to me. First of all, we learned a long time ago that we don't shop together for groceries. So that isn't something we actually do. So I don't
Yeah.
think it's ever come
I
up.
think I think those situations are always awkward when they ask in a loud voice if you want to donate, and then you go like this. I don't think so. I almost feel like the people just look at you like, "Oh, you're not donating."
No, now here's the thing. If I wasn't, have I been in the store and they've asked me to donate and I wasn't with my husband? Yes. And no, I don't give a fuck and I don't say I'll pay. I just go no and move on. I don't care what other people think.
You've always rolled through your life.
You really worry about like when you turn them down and people are going, "Oh, he must be a jerk." You really think
Oh
about that?
no, it just felt weird for that, and that one time it
Well,
felt
yeah,
weird.
because you were with your girlfriend.
It
I
just
get
felt
that.
weird.
But if you weren't with her, would you have said yes or no, or would it have made a difference?
No, I said no. Occasionally, I think you almost have to catch me at the right time, in the right mood. Like, when I was at the pet store the one time, I did like donate a little bit, but I'm in that whole thing like catch me there because I'm like, am I really giving it to you or is my dollar being chopped up in how many ways? Do I really care? There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of factors that I consider before I cough up the dough.
Yes, those needy children are sitting over there buying Legos and Connects instead of maybe, a loaf of bread and a stick of butter, I'm sure.
All right.
Really.
So, Bill, do we want to get into the meat of our topic or do we want to chew around the edges? Hit a little Force Friday, a little direct TV now? What do you think?
I don't care, whatever you want to do. It's you call the ball. It's a free flow
All
show.
right. All right. It's a free flow show. Well, tell me about how your Force Friday was. You really didn't say how that went.
My Force Friday was actually it started out really lame and bad, and then by the end of it, it actually turned out to probably be the best Force Friday experience I ever had. But it took a little bit of last minute figuring out for me to really get as much enjoyment out of it as I wanted to, and I think I've sort of solved some of my issues with Force Friday because I'm not really one of those people that really likes to be around lots of people. And Force Friday is one of those activities that really brings all the people out to the stores. And, I realized that I could accomplish what my goal was by not actually having to be around the groups of people. Now, this, of course, is after I had my terrible Target experience where I went to Target at like 9 o'clock, just sort of waiting for them to close and reopen for the midnight sale at Toys R Us, and found like all the figures that I wanted already on the pegs. So I was like, oh, sweet. I can just bypass this entire situation with the midnight waiting and the crowds of the people rushing to grab stuff off the pegs, which is the most
Sure,
unpleasant
nice.
thing. So I was like, okay, super. So I threw all the shit in my cart, went up to the checkout, and the checkout lady starts checking them out. And as soon as she scans the first figure, it goes, there's a big red, like flashing arrow, and like, stuff comes on the screen where it goes, cannot sell till 12:01 a.m. And I was like, what?
Wow.
which of course I knew that this was going to be an issue, but I kind of thought, well, maybe I'll just get one of those stupid checkout clerks who just won't give a shit. Of course, I was at Target, not Walmart, which probably was half the problem with that issue. But anyway, she's like, I'm like, can you call a manager over? And the manager's like, we can't override the system, blah, blah, blah. So you have to go put the shit back. So I was like, motherfucker. So that really pissed me off and sort of ruined my whole like early part of the evening to the point where
What,
I was
what,
like,
what do you
fuck it.
What do you mean you have to put the stuff back? You just couldn't keep it in your cart and just like
What was
wait?
I going to keep it in my cart and walk around the store for 3 hours, Jay? Really? Really? It was like 9 o'clock. The store doesn't open till
Just
midnight. It wasn't even 9 o'clock. It was like eight something probably. So I was just kind of through. So I put the shit back and left the Target. And then I was just like, fuck it. I'm just going to go home, go to bed. And tomorrow morning,
I don't even know why they wouldn't. I don't know why they would put it out like that and not put a sign up that
because
says.
some hourly employee who doesn't give a fuck about street dates, because really it's a fucking toy and who gives a damn, probably put the shit out of the box and stuck it on the rack and just went on about his day and went to his lunch break. That's probably what happened. But, they sort of make this big deal out of this Force Friday midnight sale stuff. And then, first of all, there wasn't enough stuff to go around. Again, I mean, the pegs in the stores, just like The Force Awakens, it was probably even worse than The Force Awakens. In fact, when I went to the Toys R Us right before I had this Target experience, just to check it out to see like what kind of footprint they had for all the shit, it was like half of one half of an aisle. And I was like, this is pathetic. I kind of felt like this is just not even worth my time because there's going to be like 25 to 50 people at least waiting here to get to this like half a rack of toys, and it's not going to be enough to go around, and that's where it's going to get on my nerves. People are going to start snatching and grabbing and shit, and I'm just not in the mood. So I kind of had
So what are they doing? Are they trying to create a supply and demand issue, or
um
I mean,
I think it's part of it. Yeah, part of it is probably that they're trying to sort of force an event that really doesn't really need to have an event. If they're not going to supply enough stuff for it, then it just creates sort of like false demand, and it creates, people trying to hoard shit because they're afraid they'll never see it again. Anyway, that whole part of the experience was just something I just decided I just didn't want to be dealing with. So I was just going to go home, go to bed, and get up the next morning early because I had off of work that Friday, which was actually Force Friday because now we're talking about Force Friday Eve on Thursday. I was just going to get up and go to the store at like 8 o'clock in the morning when Target opens. So I got home and I went to bed and I ended up like tossing and turning and I woke up at like 3:30 in the morning. I'm like, you know what? Let me just go out and see because the Walmarts around here are 24 hours. I don't know if they have those in Cleveland. And we have a Meijer here, which is a grocery store that's open 24 hours. So I was like, you know what? Let me just go up to Sawmill Road and see what's going on if they have anything left. Well, apparently after the first wave of shit, they put out more shit. And then like everything that I wanted was like readily available for me at these two locations, which sort of teaches me a lesson that I think I'm not going to be doing Midnight Madness anymore. What I'll do is just like get up at like 3 or 4 in the morning, go out after all the fucking people are gone, and just get my shit and go home. Much more pleasant for me because I'm really kind of an in and out kind of guy. I don't really need to be standing around shooting the breeze with like the fans. That's really not for me, which is why I don't want to go to any of the celebrations or
I
feeling.
thought that was maybe the whole like allure of it. Sometime was just kind of being there with the group. It's 12 o'clock. We're all there.
Yeah, no, I'm over it. I've realized I think I'm too old for that shit. I think I'm just too old. I just don't want to be around the hoi polloi. I just want to get my shit and go the fuck home.
Is it
So
possible you
anyway,
click on
what?
like Amazon Prime? Can you do an Amazon Prime thing?
Yeah, you
Like
could,
at
but then you
midnight.
have no idea because with some of these smaller figures, like the 3 and 3/4 inch standard Star Wars figures that come out that have been coming out since we were kids, anymore, they're made like by indentured servants somewhere over in China who are working out of like one of those shipping containers with no air conditioning. And sometimes these paint jobs get a little sloppy, and so you have to sort of pick through and make sure that you get a good one. So it's kind of hard to order something like that online because you never know what you'll get. Maybe,
Be hands on. This is hands on
yeah,
operation.
right, exactly.
All right, so
So
you went
anyway,
and got your
it turned out
success.
well. It turned out well. I got everything I wanted. I got my rose figure, so I can't wait to show that to you next weekend.
Ugh, okay, all
Um,
right. I'm not going to get into that. All right, that's fine. So, are you willing to reveal how much you spent?
well, I'm not exactly entirely
But
sure.
did you stay within budget?
Um, sort of. Yeah. I mean, there's always sort of like, listen, I had to have a porg. Okay, the porgs are like the new BB-8s. Those little furry creatures that were in the behind the scenes video, which I think I made you watch a couple shows ago. They're like little penguin like creatures with the big eyes. Anyway,
Okay.
I had to have a stuffed one of those, and I wasn't planning on that. But when I saw it, I was like, I have to have a porg. So I bought a porg. And then I saw a porg mug that I wasn't planning on buying, and I thought I have to have a porg mug. And then they had those Funko Pops, those little things with the big heads and the tiny bodies.
Yeah,
They had a porg
yeah.
one of those. So I had to have that. So the porgs weren't really in the budget, but they were kind of must haves. So I might have bought one or
I
more blankets,
I feel like you have
maybe
some
more.
sort of condition. I haven't analyzed it fully, but you have some sort of problem mentally when it comes to
Look, it's Star Wars, okay? It brings out the kid in me. And when I was a little kid running through the stores, like all little kids who grew up in that era, and your mom and dad were like, no, you can't have that. Now you kind of feel like you have some somewhat sweet revenge because you go in the store and you're like, I want it. And no one's here to tell me no. So I'll just buy it and make up for those days when I couldn't.
Well, let me ask you, compared to last Force Friday, did you enjoy like the toys, the haul that you brought in? Better
Yeah.
haul, much better selection, more exciting than the
I mean,
things?
I mean, I, I don't think the amount of stuff that they have out was really what it was cracked up to be in years past. I think, probably I'm being more selective also, but some of the stuff that, I wasn't planning on buying is really, really like I'm really glad I got. So, um, I think in general there's probably less shit being made just because I think maybe there's a lot more other stuff that retailers are sort of wary about having a lot of shit just sitting on their pegs and stuff. But I got some cool shit. So I'm happy about it. I mean, I got my Star Wars Last Jedi pillow and blanket upstairs on my bed right now. And then I have the reserve one to bring to your house when I come down for the movie. So I have two blankets. Who doesn't need two Star Wars blankets?
I feel like you're running out of room. That's what I feel like. I mean, I've been in your place. Your place is very plush, of course, as you would expect. It's very palatial. But the thing about it
Uh-huh.
is, there was a time, I can't remember the years. I'm not good with these time frames. You had like walls and walls of figurines and toys coming from like, the original,
Right.
the prequels, all of the
I
walls,
sold
Lord
a
of the
lot of
Rings
that stuff.
figures.
I sold a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, you sold a lot of it and you took down those racks.
Well,
Now
no,
it seems
actually,
like you're
those racks have been replaced. My husband now has his fire truck collection on them. So,
okay, but it looks like you're starting to ramp up again, production again.
well, I'm not really. I think I really, like I said, I had a big night, but I didn't buy stuff that isn't really practical. Like, I mean, who doesn't need two Star Wars blankets? I mean, that's something you actually use. I mean, I will. And, who doesn't need a stuffed
What's
porg?
what's the Egyptian count on these blankets? I mean, is it high? I mean,
I
is
don't
it
know. They're kids' blankets. I wouldn't expect them to be like 200, 400 count or whatever. I don't know. I mean, they're super soft. That's what it says on the packaging. And when I put it on, it does feel super soft. And then when Ferg climbs on top of it, he seems to like it. So I'm gonna go with whatever the thread count is. It works for me.
all right, that's fine. Okay, all right. So that's good. Force Friday, very successful, and we'll do this again next year.
Well, no,
It's every year.
because I really only go out on the Skywalker saga movie things. Like, I don't really collect the stuff from like the standalone movies. Like Rogue One, I didn't go out for, and I probably won't go out for Han Solo. And then the next one, well, and obviously it's probably going to be delayed now, so Episode 9 probably won't be out for, I would suggest, probably till Christmas of 19 now instead of May of 19. So
Well,
it'll probably
why
be
is
two
it going to
years.
be delayed? That's called segue. We're segueing. Why is it going
Wow,
to be delayed?
smooth, smooth. Because Colin Trevorrow was fired this week as the director of Episode 9. And so now
Get the fuck
they're
out.
going to have to go back to the drawing board as far as somebody to direct it. And that probably will lead to production delays, I would expect.
So Colin Trevorrow is going to be directing Episode 9. He was coming off a big hit of Jurassic World. Am I correct?
That is correct.
And do
So,
we know the real scoop as to what happened? I
well,
mean,
there
like
was
what
a
was going on
story.
behind the scenes?
There's a story that came out yesterday that was on Comic Book Movie in which an um, undisclosed Hollywood reporter gave a quote saying that the reason or part of the reason Colin Trevorrow was fired was because of his ego and his inflated sense of his own value, I guess, since he was in, since he did Jurassic World. This is the quote. And we discussed this last week when this news broke, too. There's one gatekeeper, this guy says, when it comes to Star Wars, and that's Kathy Kennedy. If you rub Kathy Kennedy the wrong way in any way, you're out, you're done. A lot of these young new directors want to come in and say, I want to do this, I want to do that. A lot of these guys, Lord and Miller, Colin Trevorrow, got very rich very fast and believed a lot of their own hype. Um, and they don't want to play by the rules. They want to do their shit differently, and Kathleen Kennedy isn't going to fuck around with that. It's exactly what we discussed.
Oh,
You don't fuck with
I'm
Kathy
looking at
Kennedy.
Trevorrow. I saw his movie Safety Not Guaranteed.
Right.
I don't want to say saw, but okay. Safety Not Guaranteed. All he's really done is Jurassic World.
Oh, well,
And
I mean, just that little movie that made $1.3 billion. That's all he's done. Nothing big.
So after Jurassic World, are we supposed to just dub him the next Steven Spielberg? Is that what it is?
Well, we're not dubbing him shit now because he's on the unemployment line. That's where he's at now. Him and Josh Trank
Okay.
and the Lord and Miller brothers, or whoever they are. This is what happens when you fuck with the Disney machine. Don't fuck with the Disney machine.
Yeah, we look at this differently. You look at it as being like, this is Disney. If you don't want to play with us, you're fired. I look at it as like maybe they're being a little bit rigid over there. They're not really opening up they want the young guns, but then they're like Mustangs and they're trying to corral them. Run wild and free and direct and shoot, which is what got their attention. But the thing that got their attention is the thing that they're trying to like put in a box. No.
Well, here's the way I look at it. Disney, since they've taken over Star Wars, has given me some of the best Star Wars ever created. As a fan of Star Wars, I'm quite pleased with the output so far. So, based on those two films that they've had since Lucasfilm's been owned by Disney, I'm going to tend to agree that they've got their shit to where they want it to be. And they know their plan, and they know what they want the outcome to be. And if you come in there with your little highfalutin attitude of, well, we directed that Lego movie that did, boffo business, or I directed Jurassic World, that did boffo business, so I think that you should do things my way. And Kathy Kennedy and them over at Lucasfilm and the story group have a plan or some, and from all reports, it doesn't really even sound like that they are super strict. I mean, Ryan Johnson has given quotes this week, in fact, that said he was given all the creative freedom he wanted on The Last Jedi. Here's the thing. If you do the shit and it turns out good, I don't think they're going to fuck with you. If you do some shit that they go and look at it and go, what is this crap? You're out.
Well, tell
That's
that
all.
to Miller. Well, tell that the Lord and Miller over there. They didn't get a
No.
chance to try to work their creative process. They were trying to work their things of going, we want to do more ad libbing.
Right. And
It was
apparently,
like,
whatever ad
listen, you
libbing
need
or
to.
whatever they were doing wasn't flying over there. Maybe they were trying to be funny or quippy or whatever. And Kathy was like, I'm not cracking a smile. I don't think this shit's cute. So I'm going to need you to pull it back. And they were like, but we're the Lego boys. And so there you have it. So there you have it. I mean, if, like I said, I don't know, we'll never know the real 100% truth, but I would tend to believe, if Ryan Johnson said they gave him freedom, I believe they gave him freedom. I guess it was just the type of freedom that they wanted him to follow, you know, the grand scheme of things, and he wasn't too far out of their box. Whereas these other people seem to maybe too far out of their box.
Maybe they should try to select talent, or generally speaking, as a general business role, that maybe when you're selecting these young guns, maybe you should wait for them to have more than like two. I mean, I understand that Jurassic World made $1 billion, but I'm not looking at somehow that Colin changed the game about it. I mean, he starred Chris Pratt. It was Jurassic Park. It's a known franchise. He came in and directed, and boom. It's almost like saying when Pirates of the Caribbean 4 or 5, whatever makes $1,800,000,000, you look at it and go, well, that director must be. No, it's the franchise. I mean, I'm not saying that Colin did shit work, but can we get more of a I don't know of what's the word I will curriculum vitae, more of a
Have you
resume before we
seen?
sit there and be like,
Do you think these people grow on trees? Have you seen the credits for modern blockbuster movies? They're like 20 minutes long. There's thousands and thousands of people involved in the making of these movies anymore. So I'm sure it's not just as easy as getting somebody who knows their way around a fucking camera or a movie set to do a production this size. So I imagine that the part of
so we're
the
hiring him because he can manage people on a large scale, unlike Drash Trank, who likes to sit there and drink Mad Dog 4040 before he starts filming.
wow.
Okay, that's cool. Okay,
I
okay.
mean,
I mean,
I'm just saying, and also, part of the way that they get some of these giant budget movies within budget is by hiring people who don't cost them a fourth of the movie's budget all on their own, also. And they put, more of that moolah into the actual, cost of making the movie versus just putting it in somebody's pocket to direct it.
well, at least they've taken care of this early on, so they can move on and find somebody else and keep it rolling. You have the Last Jedi
Personally,
coming out in December.
when they said that they were going to put the episode 9 in May, I kind of didn't want that anyway because I love having a Star Wars movie as like my Christmas present from Lucasfilm every year. Like I loved having Rogue One last year and having The Force Awakens the year before that. This year we get The Last Jedi. I mean, they're going to end up skipping 2018 because Han Solo comes out in May. But if they move back Episode 9 to Christmas window, I'm perfectly fine with that. I would actually
Yeah,
prefer that.
it's sort of like forming like a Star Wars Christmas tradition, if you
Yeah,
will.
yeah, the way Lord of the Rings used to be.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a nice little thing, and I think that if that was something where they were to do, I think it would be better for everyone.
yeah.
I kind of like the idea of that too. So you don't look this as a slight towards Kathleen Kennedy or Disney. You just look at it as though Colin's not willing to play within the box or within the rules. You don't look at it as a
Look,
negative or
I'm I'm glad that they, at least with this movie, unlike what happened with Han Solo, instead of filming and getting halfway through the production, they decided that he wasn't the right guy before they even started filming, so that they can, now get somebody who can be on board for the whole project. it is starting to seem like there's some kind of issue over there, though. This is the third time that they've ended up replacing a director that they've hired for one of these movies. Now, the movies haven't turned out bad for this, but it seems to be happening a lot. Um, more
All right.
than I would.
Has Colin said anything bad? Has he sit there and said "fuck Disney," or is he just saying? Is he being professional?
Well, no, I think he's probably just keeping his mouth shut because he wants to work again one day. So,
Okay, he's keeping it professional then.
yeah.
All right. Well, you don't know. I mean, you got Josh Trank out there. Is he working? Do we know if Josh is
Well,
working?
I think Josh Trank's name hasn't been heard of since that Fantastic Four fiasco a year and a half ago. You don't hear about Josh Trank directing any Netflix movies or anything, do you? You don't hear Josh Trank in reference to anything anymore.
I mean,
So
how long do you have to get blacklisted for? Maybe he's decided to take a sabbatical. I mean, that's just a shame. I mean,
it is a
that's
shame. It's too bad. I liked Fantastic Four, and I thought it was a well done movie. So
all right. Well, there you go. Let's move on. Let's go with this. I don't need you to help me come up with a title for this week because it's going to have to be doing something with five most disappointing shows. It's a little bit negative, but in light of what's been going on recently in our lives and what we've been watching, I felt it was a necessary subject to talk about. I
okay.
compiled my list this morning. It took me a while, but I guess the whole idea behind this bill, as I was thinking about it, is my girlfriend, and she's just like, if I hated a show, I wouldn't watch it. So I don't really
That's
know. And
exactly
I'm
what I
like, that's a,
told you when you. That's exactly what I
I,
said to you when we brought this up.
I know. I know. And so I thought about it some more, and I think, helped me cobble together where it may be disappointing. And I guess the way I'm looking at it was sort of like there's certain shows you run to. There's a lot of crap shows out there, obviously, over the years and decades. We all know, but we just don't watch them, or it's just not in our wheelhouse. So I think a lot of the things I was looking at for me was a show that I had high expectations for. I was excited for. I sat down, I got some Chipotle, and then I started watching it, and it was just like, this is just so disappointing for me. But like certain things I just know are going to be crap, and then I just don't watch them, or I watch them and I assume and move on. They don't really affect me, but there's certain things I have higher expectations for, and those cut deep. They cut deep, Bill. So
So my list
I think,
starts out because none of the shows on my list are shows that I started out hating. All the shows are shows that I enjoyed for either one or more seasons or multiple seasons, but by the end of the show or by a certain point in the show, I became disenchanted with the show and gave it up before it was over. So these are
this,
shows generally that I abandoned somewhere in the middle of their run because I got frustrated with them, but were once favorites.
ooh, all right. Well, give me one then.
Um, well, we'll put the first one on my list is Will and Grace. Um, it was kind of a game changer for gay people to be presented on television as not like minstrels or clowns or fae. And it was nice to see, even though Jack, one of the main characters, was sort of a caricature, um, the relationship of Will and Grace, and he was a lawyer, and I think it sort of brought a whole different um, point of view to what gay people or what Americans thought most gay people or some gay people would be like. And so it was great when it first started. It was funny. And then the second season was okay. And then with the third season, though, it just kind of devolved into like it got very repetitive and the jokes got to be a lot simpler. And it just felt like it was a retreading itself every week instead of sort of pushing forward. It just sort of felt like it was the same show week after week. And I know it's a sitcom and you kind of expect that, but at a certain point, I just stopped laughing and got bored with it.
Okay, so I'm looking at it. It made it. Will and Grace lasted 8 seasons.
I made three, maybe two.
Oh, that really sucks, huh?
Well,
You
like
didn't
I
even
said,
go back to see how it ended when you knew it was ending and everything else
I
like
did
that?
not because, yeah, I didn't because, again, I'm one of those people when I'm done, I'm kind of done. I don't really go back. It's
Oh,
rare for me to go back.
okay. So that's kind of sad. That's very sad. Disenchanted. started off high for you and then
Yeah. I mean, that happens a lot with TV shows with me. I mean, it happens a lot. Like, I end up watching a show that the premise seems really cool and I'm into it. And then, at a certain point, it just loses my interest. So,
well, for me, Bill, my one, it seems to follow your trajectory, is The Walking Dead.
okay.
Like you, I felt like the initial season of The Walking Dead was a short one, if I recall, but it was necessary to get the world established and what we were dealing with and where we're at. And the second season, I think, is sort of where you left. It was a very long season, very character driven and methodical. And I remember at the end, they were looking for the one child, and this whole time, she's actually on the farm in the barn the whole time for this, like, that whole season. And when the reveal happened, it was just like, holy shit. I remember being like, wow, she was there and she was a Walking Dead. She was a zombie. And that's also, I think, when you had the death of Shane, who's the guy that plays the Punisher?
John Bernthal.
Yes. He played Shane, and that's when Rick had to kill Shane. It was all very, like, intense and dramatic for me, and I'm like, this is what I want in the show. It's character driven. The real monsters are the humans themselves and not the zombies. But by the time we got to the third season, Governor come in, things started to change, and I think everything went downhill straight from there because it became more sensationalized. It became more about the violence and about these standard tropes and what I thought the show, like the success of the show, I think is the down failure for me. Like the more successful it got, the worse it became for me. Things that I think it takes you to be success, I felt that they've gone past that. Now, obviously, the show is still a big hit, but for me, after the second season, that show went from high on my list in my queue to being non-existent. I won't ever watch else because I'm a a zombie film person, but it's just crap for me. Every time I see a promo for The Walking Dead or The Talking Dead, and then they're talking about who will survive, it's just like, this is not what the show is about for me. So far left field. It's just crap. It's just crap for me.
Well, Walking
Very,
Dead
very
is on my list.
disappointing.
Walking Dead is on my list too. But I gave
What
up
reasons? The
after
same reasons?
um pretty much, except for it, it got to be very sort of rote early on for me, where I just felt like the pattern that they were showing just became very sort of dull, and like it would just be like walk, 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 kill some zombies, hide, walk, 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 kill some zombies, hide. It was like wash, rinse, repeat. And after like the first half a season, I was just like, I'm bored with this formula. This doesn't really seem like it's really moving anywhere to me. Like it never felt like there was any kind of like progression of the story. Like the characterizations had some interesting moments, but between those, it was just like the action plot points just kept repeating themselves over and over. And by that end of that first half a season, I was just kind of done. I was like, this is just going nowhere. It felt like the whole show was really not moving anywhere. So I was done.
I mean, I gotcha. I guess my number two show, I'm going to put this down here. I know these are going to overlap a little bit with you, maybe. American Horror Story.
I don't think I gave
That was
American Horror Story enough airtime to ever be put on my disappointed list. I was out after the pilot. So, you know what took
now
me out of American Horror Story? When
that was
they
your boy.
had Dylan McDermott, they had Dylan McDermott
Go ahead.
jacking off in front of that window, that's when I was like, you know what? I'm out. While he was crying, I believe he was crying and jacking off in front of the window, watching some kind of like maid or something. I was like, this isn't for me. Yeah.
What, you're prudish? What are you, prudish? That's
No,
too much?
it's not really about being a prude. It was about this was just coming off of Glee, right? So I'm like, Glee is my all-time favorite television show ever. The whole run of the show, I was madly in love with that show. And this was just about as far away from what Glee was as you could possibly be. And I felt like probably that was the point of Ryan Murphy doing this show, but I wasn't in the space that I wanted that kind of distastefulness in my life. I still don't, which is why I still don't watch that show.
And the
But
reason why your boy Ryan Murphy, I think, horror is in my wheelhouse. And so you turned me on to it. And I was sitting there thinking, America Horror Story, this looks kind of edgy, even though it's from the creator of Glee. I'll give it a shot. And I watched all, whatever it was, 10 episodes of season one.
right,
I watched it all. You were out after the pilot. And I would remember being pissed at you for like, listen, I thought we were watching this, and you're like, I'm out. You can continue to watch it, but I've seen all I need to see
right.
with it for the first season, and it was just garbage for me. I think there was a scene where House, and then the one, I think his name is Evan Peters. Is that what his name is? Who's always in the
Yeah,
seasons? He dressed. He was playing a ghost who got into a latex.
right. The
What is it?
the the I forget what they called his character, but he was in head to toe latex. Yeah, was it the
Yeah,
latex
yeah,
man? Whatever.
yeah, a bondage outfit. And then he rapes the girl, rapes the lady, but she thinks it's her husband. Either way, there was
What kind of
the point with
good
American Horror
god
Story.
awful horribleness is this? This is what I'm talking about. Who are you supposed to root for in this show? I mean, they're all disgusting creepazoids.
Now, I think I might have tried an episode here and there later on of other seasons, maybe for the first two, and there was always things that were just unsavory, designed to sort of like gross you out. Like, oops, you walked into the wrong room. Now we're going to chop off your arms and legs and send you out in a basket. You're going to be raped by an alien. What? There were always these crazy things happening. And I think for me, it just was not enjoyable,
It feel
very
it,
disappointing, especially for something that was going to be edgy. I thought it was going to be real, like, yeah, like a Tales from the Crypt in the evening, Tales from the Dark Side, something like that. But
it's
it's
very
not.
much. It feels like it's very much a show that throws things at the screen just to be weird and kooky and edgy, and it doesn't really try to make any kind of like coherent motivation for the storyline things that are happening. It just feels like they're just doing weird shit just to be weird. And I
Yeah.
felt like very manipulated by that. And I just did not care for that style of storytelling.
One episode for you, huh?
One
Jack off
episode.
episode and you're out.
Yes. Yes, because it wasn't about the jacking off. It was about like the seediness of the jacking off. Like he was like crying and lusting after some maid, and it was like, I don't know, it just all felt so like I wanted to take a shower after watching that show. Like I just want to like get the creepiness off of me. And like if the whole show was like that, which I have no reason to believe it wasn't, and these characters just behave in these you know, not very what do I want to in these reprehensible fashions, then I don't feel like these are stories or characters I really want to follow for weeks on end.
What's common what I'm finding out with some of these shows that I have in here, and it's going to start to taper off for me, is that it's like a shit sandwich. And the difference between you and I is that as soon as I put it down in front of you, out. I, on the other hand, are just like, you know what? I'm just going to just work my way through it. And then I complain to you, and you're just like,
Why do
well,
you
why
keep
don't you
watching
just stop watching? Yeah, and I'm just like, I don't know. It's like a train wreck. It's like, it's rubbernecking. I got to see what's happening. I just don't. I started watching it, and I hate that because when I think about America Horror Story, I should have just left. I was not enjoying it, but I had to see how it ended, and maybe now I should just read the Wikipedia page, or just do some sort of
do you
recap
still
later
care that
on.
much?
Oh no, not from that. But like when we get to one of our last shows, I'm sure that's going to be both on our list right now. We'll be
Okay.
discussing. That's what I'm talking about. I could have just did that. But anyway, how about you give me another show?
Moonlighting. This was my one of my very favorite shows
Talking
of the
about.
'80s. The very first and second seasons of Moonlighting were classic television. It was like appointment TV. I would run to watch the show every time the episode was on. And then they made the fatal mistake that a lot of shows make by ruining the sexual chemistry between the leads by having them consummate the relationship. And that very episode that they consummated Maddie and David's relationship on Moonlighting, the whole show fell apart. And I was like, I can't even watch this anymore. So the first two seasons are classic, maybe some of the best television ever. You know, some of the dialogue in that show and the chemistry between Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis was just off the charts. And then they went and screwed, and that was all she wrote. So after season two, I have seasons 1 and 2 on DVD, and that's the end of Moonlighting for me.
Wow. So what were they supposed to do, though? I mean, everybody wanted them to get together.
Sure, but sometimes it's like, be careful what you wish for, because this happens a lot. Didn't that happen with Cheers, I think, when they got Sam and Diane together and it sort of fell apart? I think it happens on TV a lot, because something happened with the chemistry. I don't even think Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis liked each other in real life. And I think something about that sort of back and forth worked for them. But then when they had to do love scenes, it just didn't work. Just didn't work.
So Moonlighting went 5 seasons. You were out after the consummation of the relationship between Sybil and Bruce.
Yes. But the first 2 seasons are some of the best TV I've ever seen.
Oh, okay. That's, so maybe it should have ended for you. It should have maybe ended with them consummating the relationship then, like if they knew it was going to run its course.
No, I mean, I think they obviously, as a viewer, you want the relationship to sort of end up in a place where, it's satisfying emotionally. Like I said, I think behind the scenes, there was a lot at play that helped sort of douse the chemistry between them when they ended up having to do straight up love scenes. I think that some of the sort of sassiness and the back and forth sort of sexual tension sort of worked for them. But then when it just came to straight on love scenes, you could feel it on the screen. It just wasn't happening.
Okay. I'm reading here. I'm looking at this over here that like in the 4th season, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page. It said the writers tried to recreate the tension between Maddie and David by having Maddie spontaneously marry a man named Walter Bishop with a few
Who was
hours
played
of meeting him on the
by
train back.
Mark. Okay, I don't know. Okay, this might have been somebody else. Okay.
Okay. The move failed to rekindle the sparks between the main characters or capture the interest of the audience, which even led to further ratings decline. So something did happen along the way, I think, generally, like you're saying, but you were already out after the 2nd season. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, that's so sad. That's so sad. I mean, the shows that you're giving me, it's just like it's even worse. It's not even like it's just hot garbage for you, because it's not even, it's the ones that are like you actually formed a relationship with it, and then it's like they slapped you in the face.
Yes,
that's exactly what it is.
But I am one of those people that does not have a problem breaking up with shows. If the shows fuck me over, I will dump their asses in a hot minute. So that's just how I roll. I don't have time. Which is exactly why I probably will never go back and watch the missing 5 episodes of Twin Peaks till the finale. Because when you fuck me over, I'm out.
Then I must have some sort of battered man syndrome that I've got to finish watching it. Then I'm just just a little bit more. It's going to get better. It's going to get better.
No, it's not. Sometimes it's just not going to get better. Like in a relationship where the guy just keeps hitting you, and he's always like, or the girl, whatever. I'll never do it again, baby. Please forgive me. I'm so sorry. Then the next thing you know, you trip over a sock and then he smacks the shit out of you again.
All right, my number 3 show here. I'm not going to have much to say about this. It's Falling Skies.
Oh, for God's sake!
Be a lot about this show, but it starred Noah Wiley. It was produced by Steven Spielberg, if I recall.
Yes, it was.
Maybe he might have directed a few episodes. I'm not really sure, but I like the whole idea of the premise of the alien invasion and us fighting. It's like a War of the Worlds type of scenario, but
Right.
it starred Noah Wiley as the swashbuckling protagonist who was like a librarian or whatever else he was doing, but now he's the leader of the human rebellion against the aliens.
Right.
It was really corny and cheesy, but I watched it every week. It was so bad, it was so good. Agree, but at the end of the day, overall, it was just it was mind-numbingly dumb. And I think I would call you up on the phone every day and go, "Who would cast Noah Wiley as a leader of the human rebellion?" I never bought into it. I could never understand it. And each season, each episode, it would always have him in these situations where he should have just been killed. But the aliens are always discussing. It's almost like the aliens that are taking over the world come down. Instead of talking to Trump or Putin or somebody else, they'd be talking to you. And you'd be like this, I will stop you out in Columbus. It's so like ridiculous. But yet they kept propping him up. Like he would be blowing up aliens. They would have him on the ship. Instead of killing him, he would somehow fall out of a tube and make it back to the humans. It was just always some crazy nonsense. And anyway,
And how many seasons of this shit did you watch before you decided that you couldn't take it anymore? Hello? 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 You gotta be kidding me.